Hey guys, Coach Becky here. Thanks for tuning in for today's mobility and stability session. Let's review equipment for today. You're going to need a ball, a tennis ball, therapy ball, lacrosse ball, baseball, all will work. A PVC stick or a broomstick will work just fine too. Weights are optional. You might just enjoy using those for some of our stretches today, so don't stress about it too much. And then a step bench or chair. All right, let's get started with a little Achilles builder. What we're going to do is put one foot up onto your step or bench. We're really going to be working the back leg here. I'll move my weight so you can see. Just drop the hips in. You want to be at a slight forward lean, similar to when you're running, where you kind of run specific move here. And you're just going to roll your heel off the floor and get up onto your tiptoes as much as you can. You could even go into a big toe raise from here if you want to be fancy. Just take your time and work that ankle extension. I'm going to do 5 without the weight and then 5 with weight. If you're not interested in using weights here, you can just keep rolling with the 5. Just make sure you're at that kind of just slight forward lean with some of your weight in your front foot. That'll actually help you if you're not putting enough weight in that front foot. It'll probably be almost too much for your back foot. So just kind of make sure you're distributing some of your weight into your front leg. Okay, let's do 10 on the other side. I'm just going to demonstrate 5 and 5. Try to breathe here. If you're somebody that really needs balance, you could even use your stick as balance. Again, the main focus here is the mobility at the ankle joint. Hopefully it's as beautiful of a day where you're at as it is here in Seattle. Grab your weights if you're using them, and we're just going to do 5 more. Again, loading that ankle joint, working some strength into the Achilles tendon, which is right there behind the heel, hence the term Achilles builder. You could even do this off of a step with your bottom foot, so it's a little bit more balanced that way, but you do get a deeper flexion extension from the ankle. Lots of ways you could experiment with this movement, so I invite you to do that the next time you do this series. All right, next we're gonna do a nice hip stretch. So it's child's pose, but with our knees out really wide and our feet together. So I'll show you from the side here. Great if you're a swimmer and you swim breaststroke, or if you just have super tight hips. You also get a nice little lat stretch. So I'm just gonna time this with my breathing. Right, inhale here, exhale, and pull into that wide hip stretch and lat stretch. So the muscle right behind your armpit. Great one for swimmers, but just because I'm a triathlete and I swim, bike, run doesn't mean that y'all have to. There's usually a functional application for somebody that doesn't swim, bike, or run as well. So tight hips, great one for you. Keep those knees out wide, feet together. You can pause right here if it feels good. You could pause here if it feels good. Just kind of play around with what your body needs today. Okay, we're going to use the ball for some spine work next. So while we're on all fours, we're going to take the ball, reach up towards the sky, and then reach towards the opposite kind of pocket. And we're just taking some time here to work mobility in the thoracic spine. So I'll kind of show you one little trick I use. I kind of slide my hand forward. See how my right arm, the hand that doesn't have the ball, it's straight. So I can get a bonus lat stretch on that side. And then I get that nice spine reach. So here you get a good stretch. So pause there. And you also get a great stretch at the top. So if you want to jump in with me here and do about 5 per side, that's kind of the main thing. Hopefully you got enough demonstrations there where you can get into a nice rhythm. I do invite you to breathe into this stretch, because inhaling and exhaling with this movement will just feel really nice, and it'll help you avoid rushing, because if you rush, you're not going to get quite the benefit, right? So really try to create space in the spine. If your spine doesn't have great mobility, you're probably going to have issues with regular movement. So you don't have to be an athlete to have spine mobility as your priority. So move to the other side. You can see how that high end kind of slides out and then slides in really well from the side here. See how I push my left arm out and then kind of pull it in, so that when I push my hips up into the reach, I'm just more stable. So play around with it. You don't have to use the ball either. I forgot to mention that. If if you don't have a lot of mobility, you probably shouldn't be doing anything loaded. So the ball is for somebody who's probably done these a few times with me in the past, or has great spine mobility and just wants to increase the intensity slightly. Footie work. I used to play soccer collegiately, so I guess if you're a soccer player tuning into these, this one's for you. No, I'm just going to roll my feet out with the ball because it feels so good. Even if you're not a runner or a hiker or whatever, you still stand throughout the day. So if you're a mom just stressed out with kids, like roll the feet out. It'll help release some of that tension because there's tension in your feet. Personally, I like to focus a lot on my arch and on the heel there. So just 30 to 60 seconds of feel good stuff, kind of loosening up some of the junk. If you have plantar fasciitis, a really good one for you. Okay, so we're gonna stay on this side, or this foot. I've brought my heel to the ground and the ball is right at my midfoot. And all I'm doing now is curling my toes around the ball and then lifting them back up. So it's kind of like we're doing like little curl flexion extensions for the toes. And that's specifically for like foot mechanics, walking well, even balance. Like if you struggle with balance, that's a good one for you. Runners that have hammer toe like myself, it's good for big toe strengthening. So let's switch to the other side and just roll the other foot out. But that's why we're doing those kind of toe work. And if you want to hit pause and just spend more time on the toe roll, the feet rolling and the toe grabs, that's fine. Sometimes I'll use a towel and just kind of grab a towel with my feet. So that's kind of a fun one to try if you're somebody that just suffers from a lot of injuries and runs a lot. That might be a good way to kind of start your mechanic training. Super simple. All right, here we go. Prop the foot up like a kickstand. The ball goes right in the kind of the forefoot there. Right where actually it's kind of ideal if you land with your foot there. You don't have to, but that's kind of like another little trigger point. Yeah, and then just roll the feet, kind of try to flex and extend your toes. Sometimes I make the parallel of my hands squeezing into a fist and then opening. That's kind of what we want kind of our feet to do. So that's kind of a fun analogy or mirror. Okay, this one's super awesome. Shout out to my boys at Ignite down in Arizona. Some of my old coworkers that shared this stretch, kinetic shoulder stretch. So you're going to use a rod, okay? And the angle of the rod is pretty important. So you want it kind of at an angle here. My left foot is in front and I'm stretching my right side. So the rod is almost at an angle back and my elbow's parallel with my shoulder. And I've just wrapped my hand around the rod, leaning into that half kneeling stretch so I can feel my shoulder. And I'll show you from the front as well, because this one is super tricky. I taught this one to my swim team and I had to manually manipulate a lot of people. So if you're struggling with this one, just try to look at a mirror and then look at me and just kind of say, okay, is my elbow and my shoulder in line? Is the stick far enough away from me? Is it at the right angle? And then just lean into it so that you feel that shoulder rotation stretch. And take your time with it. You know, a lot of people need some help with this one. So if you need to just stop and do like your favorite shoulder drill instead, that's totally fine. Just wanted to show you guys a newer one that my buddies taught me. And I just totally love it and want to share it with people because it's a really nice shoulder stretch. And a lot of people have messed up shoulders. Here's a really great angle of what it should look like from the side. And this just feels so good. You'll know when you find the sweet spot, and everyone's is going to be a little different. So obviously my shoulders are different than your shoulders, so you might not need this angle. So kind of a small asterisk on that one. So I'm just spending about 60 seconds per side, mostly so I can explain some things to look for, but also because it just feels that good. All right, nice work. We're going to move into some Superman variations. So give yourself plenty of space to lift your legs off the ground as well as your arms. I'm just going to break down a couple options and you can progress through them with me or stay with the one that works for you. Beginner level 1, lay on your tummy, eyes stay neutral at the ground, and you're just going to lift your torso off the floor or your palms off the floor. So just take your time there. That's level 1. Level 2, we're going to do hands and feet. Again, keep the eyes neutral. Try to lift your heels and hands as high as you can. Inhale and exhale with that movement if you can. Okay, next level, we're gonna load with the PVC stick. So only do this one if you're pain-free and have good mobility in levels 1 and 2. Awesome possum. And then I've got one more for you, the kingpin. We're gonna do a full Superman, and then we're gonna do a shoulder roll back. Make sure your hands are wide enough to fit your mobility. If your hands are too narrow, it's probably not gonna work. So make sure your hands are wide enough for you, and just do whatever version works for you. Have some fun with it. Great way to work on the posterior chain, the back side of your body. Lengthens the front side of your body, which is kind of a fun way to kind of stretch everything out. Work on posture. For those of you that might swim butterfly, I've always found these to be super helpful. Just a nice exercise. So here's some Superman variations for y'all. All right, balance reach variations. So we're gonna start easy. Here's level 1. Make sure you have enough space where you don't kick anything. I just have the stick in my left hand and I'm reaching with my right hand. Level 2, I'm using the stick to reach towards the ground. Your idea is to make like a letter T with your body. Level 3, if you can, try to lift that stick over your head. So this works ankle, knee, and hip stability as well as hip mobility. Very good. Just find a version that works for you. Try to really focus on lifting that back leg so that your glutes have to do some work and that your core has to work to stabilize you. Don't have a lazy back leg. All right, let's go to the other side now. So level 1 is going to be assisted. Level 2, we're using that just as a target. And again, balance and mobility, these are things that are going to kind of change day to day. If I had just run 15 miles and then I went to do this, I probably wouldn't be able to do this version. You know what I mean? Versus, you know, some days it's just busy mentally and we can't really focus as well. So don't be alarmed if it feels like you're not progressing. This isn't necessarily always something we progress or regress. It's just kind of a check-in with our body each day. The same thing for mobility. Some days you might have great mobility. Sometimes you might have really crappy mobility. So just use these exercises as a way to check in. And there's less judgment that way too. Okay, we're going to do a half kneeling reach. You may use your tennis ball for this if you're just beginning. So I'll show that. On second thought, we're going to just start off with that ball. So you want to make sure the ball is on the same side as the knee that's forward. And what you're going to do is just kind of look up at the ball, rotate that ball, and stretch to the side. So we're kind of loading the spine laterally in a half kneeling position. With the weight, make sure you pack that shoulder in with the lat. Like I'm saying here, we don't want a lazy arm with weight overhead. So this is working your obliques. It works shoulder stability, and it also works some spine mobility. So there's a lot of happy things going on here. Just take your time. I like to time this with the breath. Inhale, keep your eyes on the prize, reach, exhale up. And I'm just doing 5 of those per side. Don't be afraid to just stick with a tennis ball or a water bottle or something light, especially if you don't have great overhead stability. Okay, so here I am starting off with the ball. Pack that lat in, which just means kind of tighten that muscle right behind the armpit and reach to the side. In a way, it really helps with balance too. So if you're struggling with balance, that's okay. We're going to work on that. Just go with the lightweight for now. Okay, and I'll do 5 loaded. As a sidebar, a lot of people get injured lifting overhead, especially like weights, because they don't have great spine mobility. And that's how a lot of us injure our lower back and just have a lot of problems. So if you don't have great shoulder mobility and stability, overhead lifting, no matter how light, can be detrimental. So that's why teaching exercises like this have been a lot more fulfilling for me versus let's just do really hard like push-ups and shoulder presses and challenging things. You kind of have to put the horse before the cart, not vice versa on that. So little soapbox, you know, I always go into those. So we're going to do glute bridges. I'm going to do mine on the bench for 3. I'll show you if the bench is too much for you. You could also use a chair, or you can just go to the ground. So I'm going to do 3 here. We're doing a total of 12. If this is too much for you, just go ahead and put your feet on the ground and I'll demonstrate those for 3. And we're going to do another set of these later on. This is the only exercise that I'm repeating today just because I wanted to get a little glute, hip extension, core work in. So this is kind of our featured exercise, I guess, today. I love a glute bridge. It's a really great core and glute strengthening exercise that's great for people of all levels and can really help prevent lower back pain. So when in doubt, bridge it out. Okay, the hip hike. You do not need to do this on a bench. I'm obviously taking a few risks to show you this, but a chair or a small step or like a riser is really good here. All you're gonna do is drop your hip. Don't bend the knee. It's not a knee exercise. So I have my hands on my hips so you can kind of see what my hips are doing. I often use the analogy like pretend you've got a baby on one hip, okay? I'll slide back so you can see even more. And then after you've got that baby propped up on your hip, you're just gonna pull up using your pelvic floor. So people with leg length discrepancy, this one might be helpful for you. Or people that just have kind of a weak pelvic floor. This could help people that struggle with balance, runners. There's a lot of functional applications here, but it is a pretty subtle movement. So don't look for more space than what's there. You might get better at this one as you go on. I also have maybe more or less mobility than you, so it might look different for you. I am holding on to my ceiling here because my bench is so high off the ground. I really don't recommend using something this high to do this exercise because you could fall and I don't want you to fall and get hurt. So a riser is good, or a little mini step, or even if you have a set of stairs at home, just do that off the lowest one and hold on to your banister because it's not a balance exercise as much as it is a pelvic floor exercise. So, okay, there's that one for you. 5 to 7 aside is just kind of a great daily practice. We're going back to those bridges now, another set of 12. And believe it or not, y'all, I think we only have one more to go after this. So happy days. Not that I don't love spending time with you guys. I know I've got kind of a good little following. Shout out to Jane Schaefer, by the way. If you're watching, you inspired me to get back on my YouTube grid, and it's brought me a lot of joy. So I hope you're watching this and that brings a smile to your face. Yeah, I just picture you doing these, and it gives me to get one in up every week. So cheers to you, Jane. All right, great job on the glute bridges. We're gonna do a split sense calf raise. I am gonna do this with weight. You don't have to do this with weight. This is a great balance and ankle exercise. All you're gonna do is step one foot just slightly in front of the other and roll from your heels to your toes. You can do this with weight if you'd like. If you don't have great stability or great ankle mobility, I would say don't do it with weight, but these are just 10 pounders in each hand. There's nothing too crazy. But it's a great exercise for runners or people that walk. So that's everybody. I have my husband's late 80s grandmother do these to work on her balance so that she can go up and down her stairs. So, and I've taught, 5-year-old swimmers to do this as one of their first ankle mobility drills. So kind of one of those generational exercises that I just love to do because it's like anyone can do this. So make it your own. Do what feels right for your body today. And hopefully you feel like we've really touched base with the entire body and all the joints in some form of mobility or stability today. So hopefully you feel balanced and great. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. We'll see you again next week and have a great day.